Welcome to the Reality Revolution. I'm your host, Brian Scott, and this is dedicated to all those spirits out there who believe life is meant to be magical and fun. Here we venture to share the very mysteries of self and reality. My purpose is to help light that spark inside of you, to reawaken your sense of fascination and awe towards the world. I'm going to try to help you hack reality and unleash your potential and open unlimited possibilities of wealth, health, and relationships in your life. Welcome to the Reality Revolution. Today I have Pola Vahler. It's Paulina or Paula?
It's Paula.
Paula. And Paula has a wonderful YouTube channel. I really recommend that anybody who has a chance or is interested in particular in the law of attraction and reality transurfing, she's got wonderful videos. I've learned a lot from all of her videos. She goes deep. She's actually read a lot of the other Zeland books that haven't been translated yet. She has some pretty deep and interesting information. I've learned a lot. So I was so excited that she agreed to talk with me today. So how are you doing today?
I'm doing very good, Brian. Thank you. How are you?
Thank you so much for joining me. So just to give people that maybe have not have heard of your channel or you, just give everybody a little bit of a background about where you're coming from and a little bit about what your channel is about.
Sure. Well, I was born in Russia, and as many of you may know, Vadim Zeland is actually Russian. So this is why I came across a lot of these books that were not translated yet. And my background was pretty scientific. So first I studied physics, and only after that I kind of transitioned more into spirituality. And a lot of my videos do cover reality transurfing, but recently I was talking more about awareness and presence and more of the kind of Buddhist philosophies. So this is kind of the direction that I'm going.
Okay.
Because I feel like many reality transurfing YouTubers and law of attraction YouTubers, they focus a lot on the future and on the goals and on the outcomes, and that's all good. But I think awareness and presence and being content with what is right now is also equally important.
It's true. Once you start to get into this material, there's a certain awakening that you have, and it doesn't have to. You don't have to completely embrace all of it. There's truths in it, but I'm sure you're finding your own spiritual truths as you go along and apply this material. What is it like in Russia? What is we talk about transurfing here, and it's kind of, for some people it's a word they haven't heard of, and some people it's complicated. But I've always wondered what it's like in Russia, where I've heard that it's much more popular than here. And so what is it like there? Do you have an impression of how it's being received there?
Yeah, I think it's beginning to get a lot more popular in the United States and in the West right now. But the books that Zeland published, they are not new books. They have been published decades ago. So it was very popular. And I think the way that the West has went is it kind of started with The Secret and the law of attraction, and now you kind of go into the transurfing. Whereas in Russia, I don't know a lot about law of attraction. It wasn't that popular, I think. It kind of started with reality transurfing out there. Okay. And right now, I don't really live in Russia, so I don't really know how it goes there. But he has quite a large following. There are transurfing centers, I think, in St. Petersburg, where people gather and they actually practice all those principles. So it is very well developed, and there are a lot of books books that Zeland. I think really they're kind of all the same, but the later books he just kind of answers the questions that people have and some of the misconceptions that people may have. But everything really can be summarized in maybe one book.
Right. So when you first got access to this information, was there an event or something that happened that said, "Wow, this is very powerful. I really want to study this and learn more about this"? Did you have something in particular that happened, or was it an ongoing process?
I wouldn't say something particular happened. It's just when I started reading the book, it just made sense to me. The first book made sense. I think a lot of it is you kind of already know, but you can't put it into words. So it reminded me a lot of the Buddhist concepts as well, because I was studying Buddhism at the university kind of academically, and there are a lot of parallels and a lot of similarities between the two. So I listened to an audiobook as well, and the audiobook in Russian is very well made. I don't know how it is in English, but the Russian version is very professional. It's very nice to hear. It's very pleasant to hear. So I was just listening to that, kind of starting my morning with that, and this is how I learned. And I would say that something particular happened. It's just it piqued my interest, almost right away, and I decided I wanted to really research it and to understand it.
So since you've acquired this knowledge, has it changed your morning routine? Do you have a specific morning routine that you've been integrated with this and then the other knowledge that you've gained?
Yeah, my morning routine has changed a bit. When I first began, I remember at some point I actually started my morning with listening to the audiobook, and it really set the day differently. I noticed that the day went differently. It went a lot better. And now, recently, I came to the United States, and my morning routine has changed quite a bit. Usually, I wake up. I don't really start the day right away. I don't really get up right away. I just kind of lay there and contemplate the morning. I listen to the birds. We have a lot of birds here, and I just kind of take it slowly, and then I prepare my coffee. I know some people in kind of personal development, spiritual development, they don't drink coffee, but I still do.
Oh, I still do, for sure.
Yeah. So I drink black coffee. Great. And while I do that, right now, actually, I don't listen to reality transurfing anymore. What I do instead is I listen to the Dharma talks, the Buddhist talks that they have in all these Buddhist centers. And it's only then do I kind of start the day.
Okay.
So, yeah.
What I noticed when I watch your videos is clearly you've read this material and you've really let it soak in. There's a lot, as this expands, there's a lot of misunderstandings about reality transurfing. And I kind of wanted to talk with you because a lot of your videos will kind of clear out some of the misunderstandings, and they're very frank, and I like that. So what do you think the biggest misunderstandings and misapplications of reality transurfing that you see as you've understood it on YouTube and when people discuss this stuff?
Well, I think there are a couple. First of all, many people don't come from a place of acceptance. They come to me with certain questions that they want something, and I can just see that they really don't love themselves, as they are. They don't accept themselves as they are, and they don't even understand that. And so before you even set any kind of goals or you start walking in any direction, you have to have this acceptance of what is right now, totally, So this is the first one. And the second one, I think, is many people, they try to manifest, they try to have a certain goal, but they don't really make any steps towards that.
Right.
So I was talking to someone who was trying to become an actor, and they were visualizing themselves as an actor. And I asked them, do you take any acting courses? Are you trying to improve your craft? Are you trying to become a better actor? Are you trying to become someone who would actually be hired? And they said no. And, they didn't even consider that. And that's so strange to me. If you wish to be an actor, you have to be someone who would be hired, would actually be someone worthy of hiring, And so you can try to manifest, you can have a goal, you can visualize, but you have to show up as well and do the work. So this is very important.
And one of my favorite videos of yours is when you kind of go over this idea that's common in law of attraction literature of following your bliss, and how that's not entirely, if you just follow your bliss, you're not going to achieve or manifest some of the things that we'd like to. And I'd like you to talk about that a little bit more, because I found it's very true. There's some steps that we have to take when we want to achieve our goals. And sometimes it's not just following our bliss. And Zeland even talks, if you want to get a degree, you got to go through college and you got to take your degree. He mentions that a few times. And I just wanted to get your impression on that.
Oh, yeah, I agree. When you have a very large goal, for instance, that's very far away, sometimes you will do things that are not that fun to you.
Right.
I'm sure you have encountered this with your podcasts. Probably interviewing people is fun for you. You like that, but probably there is some technical stuff that maybe isn't that fun. But you still have to do it if you want to see the final result. And people don't understand that. So again, with the actor and with the artist that want to make it in the arts, yes, art is important and creating your art is important. You also have to speak to people. You have to be able to sell this art. You have to be able to be understood. So there are a lot of things that are involved. It's not only doing what you love. It's doing what it takes. Mm-hmm. So, this is what I'm trying to do with the people that I'm working with.
Right.
I'm trying to explain this. Yeah.
Right. And you've offered coaching on your YouTube videos. You've done some coaching as well, and I'm sure that you encounter, when you start to coach this stuff, some pretty interesting aspects. People come to it not really understanding it. Have you had some interesting stories as you begun to coach this?
Interesting stories. I'm not sure right now. I do coach several people. I have just recently started. So I haven't really had any clients that I have kind of stopped coaching, that they are kind of done with the program. It's still ongoing. So as of right now, I don't really have that many stories, but I do see that people don't really want to do what they don't,
Right. It's interesting.
I talk also a lot about discipline. In my programs, I try to get people to understand this discipline. And I think many of the kind of new age ideas like law of attraction, idolatry, transurfing, they don't involve a lot of that. But if you look at the original wisdom traditions like Buddhism, they did talk a lot about self-discipline, disciplining your mind, and really doing the right things, doing everything that you have. So, go ahead. Right.
No. Do you meditate every day, or can you do this without meditating?
I do meditate every day. In the morning, usually before I start my work, I usually do meditate. Sometimes also in the evening, but not every day. And, meditation is a great tool. I emphasize it a lot with everyone. The thing with meditation is you don't see instant results, but your mind is always changing. Your brain is literally changing long term. And from what I understand, it takes about 20 to 30 minutes for it to start changing. Now, this doesn't mean that if you meditate for 10 minutes, then it's worthless, But 20 or 30 is when it kind of maximizes. And the long term is where it's at.
For me, for my meditation journey, it was understanding the difference between a guided meditation that I listened to and that not listening to anything and trying to grasp and understand stillness and silence. And I was wondering if you had a similar journey, because meditation is complicated and it's also simple. But a lot of people go through a process and they learn about meditation. They start listening to meditations, and really they're probably not getting what an actual meditation is. Especially because you're talking about Buddhism. There's a real power to meditating with no sound and finding the stillness. And I wanted to get your impressions of that.
Yes, I think if someone has never meditated and they are kind of all over the place, they can't truly focus. Starting with a guided meditation is a good idea to just get into this space. But honestly, I don't believe that guided meditation can kind of do the trick. Right. I think that everyone has to come to this kind of silent meditation when it's just you. I think it is called shamatha meditation in Buddhism, where you just observe your breath. You breathe in, you breathe out, you observe your thoughts. There are no kind of guides. There is nothing like this. Another good idea, if you have never meditated, is to start with a mantra, to just pick any kind of mantra and focus on that. Because for some people, it is easier to focus on the mantra than on the breath. I have noticed that. And there is really nothing magical about the mantra. I don't think so about the words, but it just gives you something to focus on, Also, recently, I have started something called Zen meditation, and it's very interesting. And I'm very new to this, but I don't want to say that it is kind of next level, but it is different from, shamatha, because shamatha is about stilling the mind and coming to the state of presence. And from what I understand, at least right now, Zen is not really about stilling the mind. It's about observing yourself as you are, all your feelings, all your emotions. And Zen meditation is even done with eyes open, which is very interesting.
Oh, very interesting. So, I don't know how the best way. One of my favorite videos of yours, and I even mentioned this in my book, you offer this advanced technique for intention that is incredibly powerful. And I wanted to know how long you were able to pull it off. It's essentially every action that you take, you visualize that particular action before you do it. And then as you do this, you start to see your intentions become more powerful, your visualizations become more powerful. And I've tried this, and it's easy just to, you can go for 20, 30 minutes doing this, and that's a long time. And I wanted to get your impressions of trying this technique, because I think Zeland talks about it in one of his books. I've even read about it in some other material. But once you start applying this, it's powerful, but it's difficult. And I wanted to get your impressions on how you were able to do it.
Yes, it is quite different. I think he wrote about this in Tafti. This is where it's coming from.
Okay.
You're right. It is difficult to do it for more than 20 minutes or 30. You start getting distracted. You start forgetting about it. I don't think that this is that necessary for most people, for everyday people. They will just benefit from meditation and from setting some goals and actually making some steps. I can't tell you that I can maintain that state for 24 hours, 7 days a week.
Right.
But when I do, it really is almost like a different reality. You see things differently. It's interesting. It really is.
It really is. It's one of the most powerful techniques, and your video on it was great, and I love that. And I recommend anybody try that. Just right now after this interview, just visualize something that you're going to do as simple as making a tea before you do it, and then go and do it. And when you get into this practice of visualizing and setting your intention, it's very powerful. And I love that. So one of your videos had me thinking about myself. You talked about focus and energy and how to gain more focus. As you can see all my paintings on the background there. You mentioned that some people, they lose focus because they have too much stuff and too many things going on, and you lose a little bit of your energy. Am I right? And so I wanted you to talk a little bit more about that.
Yeah, many people, first of all, many people kind of hop from one goal to the next one, and they maybe have like 5 different ones, and they can't go in any singular direction. And I think it's more powerful to have one goal and to achieve that, and then see what's going to happen next. When it comes to focus, we have so many distractions these days. It's incredible. There is social media, which is a big one. There is entertainment, there are TV shows, video games. There are all those things that want to get your attention, your time. But actually your time is very valuable, and you don't have a lot of it. It's very limited. So a wise choice would be to spend your time on the things that actually matter and bring you some value. And this was one of the reasons why I stopped posting as much on YouTube. It was a bit overwhelming to me, because I was trying to answer all the comments.
Right.
And when you try to do that, at some point, it just gets too much, So I kind of took a break. And I do understand that I need to get back to YouTube. I do want to do that.
Well, we miss you.
To kind of post at least maybe once a week, because I know my last video was maybe last month. It's been a while. Right. So I'm still struggling myself to find this kind of balance, But I do believe it can be done.
Right.
And
No. That's perfect. Thank you. I always ask these questions in my interviews, and so I'll maybe change it a little bit. But just gives everybody a little bit better understanding of you, and it's always good information. What is your favorite book that you have read? We'll start with fiction. Do you have a favorite fiction book? Yeah.
Yeah, I was thinking about this. Someone asked me this yesterday, actually. There are a lot of fiction books that I like. One of the most impressive ones for me were books by Dostoevsky.
Oh, wow. I love Dostoevsky.
Very,
very powerful and raw.
Yeah, I read them very early on in my life, and they're very philosophical and very, very good. I also like Brave New World, and I do like a lot of Buddhist books, actually, like the Dhammapada and all the Buddhist sutras. I know it's not really fiction, but they are very wise.
That's my question. I ask this question a lot, and it ends up coming to the same. Do you think our acquisition of fiction, when we read or even watch movies, now that we have this understanding of transurfing, do we need to be more cautious about what we're watching and reading? Because that's still a part of we're creating our realities. And I wonder, I know he differentiates this dream world, and a part of our brain does that. But since I've become more aware of reality transurfing, I've noticed that I've changed what I read, and even if it's fiction or even if it's movies, because my awareness is much more powerful than I realized. And I wanted to get your impression of that, if that had changed your interest in fiction or movies or anything like that.
Yeah, there definitely is a lot of fiction, a lot of movies that are kind of best described by the word trash, and
Right.
you don't want to watch that. I mean, it doesn't really bring you anything. It doesn't bring anyone any kind of value. You know when you watch something, and you know you really shouldn't be watching it. It's a total waste of time. You don't really enjoy watching it or reading it.
Right.
And when you have that feeling, it's better to not watch that at all. Now, when it comes to something kind of negative or maybe a little bit dark, because Dostoevsky is quite dark, I think
Yes.
it would be a mistake to not read that because it is dark. You know, many people in reality transurfing kind of try to shelter themselves too much and avoid any kind of negativity, you know. But I think reading those books can be helpful for you to understand even the world and understand people. I mean, those books, they withstood the test of time for a reason. They're great books. And it's not about sheltering yourself. It's just about knowing where to direct your attention and what to let in, what to not let in. You can see many dark things in the world, but still maintain the state of not kind of falling into this total negativity and despair trap, you know?
That finding your neutrality is important. I think we texted about this, and one of the reasons that you had kind of gotten off social media, you wanted to kind of just step back a little bit, and I wanted to get your idea of finding that neutral point where you're not going against something or you're not supporting something, and what kind of power you found in that.
Yeah, neutrality point. That's a good question. Again, I think it comes back to the balance, which I'll admit I am struggling a bit with the balance. But I don't know, I feel like meditation does help a lot with finding that balance. And also, again, having that self-discipline and, for instance, having a schedule and telling yourself, I'm going to do this once a week. I'm going to go to social media for maybe 1 hour every day, but that's it. When you have this written down, maybe having an alarm on your phone can also help with that. This definitely helps, because with those things, they can get out of hand very quickly. You know, you may go on and tell yourself, I'm going to just watch 1 episode of this movie, but then you watch 2 and 3 because it's very entertaining, and then, you know, the whole evening is gone, and you're completely lost in it. So having a schedule, having alarms is definitely a good idea.
So for people listening, what would you say a secret weapon to reduce the importance? Well, we talk about importance and how it can be devastating to what you're trying to manifest or achieve. And in Buddhism, we talk about detachment. Do you have any particular tricks, ideas, goals, techniques where we can reduce the importance or even become aware of how we're placing importance on things?
Yeah, I have one good idea, but I'm not sure that anyone would do that. And that is...
we want to hear it. Yeah.
That is the death contemplation, which is also a Buddhist concept. I know it may sound a bit morbid and dark, but Buddhists, they do that. They contemplate their own existence, they contemplate death, that all phenomena arise and fall, that life is not, it's not something permanent, it's not something that you can keep. And when you do that, you put that into perspective, everything just becomes less important. And you have this state of calm, just tranquility, Mm-hmm. What Zeland talks about is the will to have. You have this will to have, you do make those steps, but you understand that it's really not that important. None of it is. And there is a big difference of between walking towards your goal and having it on a pedestal and having it all you want, your dream, and having this goal, but it's not that important. If you get it, that's good. If you don't, there are other things in life, So this kind of death contemplation, death meditation will be very helpful for anyone, I think. Also, Zeland talked about having a plan B to your goals. I know this is kind of a bit controversial because some people will say, no, you don't have to have a plan B, because if you have a plan B, then you kind of focus 50% of your attention on this plan A, and you don't
Right.
give it your all, and then you kind of fail, So I don't know. I think to each his own here. What else can help with importance? Again, meditation can help a lot.
Right.
It really helps with everything. And the final thing is actually not thinking that much. If you have a goal,
Well,
people overthink it.
It's
They
true.
think, they dream, they visualize, and then the more you think about it, the further away it seems.
Right.
So instead of thinking, just make some steps every day. And when you are actually immersed in that, in making the steps, you stop thinking that much, and before you know it, you reach this goal,
Right.
and it's really not that big of a deal.
Sadhguru has that as an option too. He talks about the death meditation, and if you just take a moment to really consider how incredible it is just to be alive, and death in general, it reduces the importance of everything. And it's great that you mentioned that. Another one of my favorite videos of yours is when you're talking to people that don't have a goal. And this I find a lot. Hey, I love the fact that I can create my reality and I understand the secrets of the universe, but I have no idea what I want to do and what my goal is. And you had a pretty good video. So for people out there listening that say, hey, I'm interested in this, but I really don't know what my goal is, what would you tell them, or do you have any suggestions on finding that goal so that they can apply these principles?
Yeah, I think this is a great question. Really great question. It is very individual.
Mm-hmm.
For people that don't have a goal, well, one idea is to look at their childhood and at their interest that they had back then and start there. Maybe something will resonate. Another thing, if they don't find anything even there, or if they have too many interests, they don't know what to do at all, a good goal is to just take care of yourself, of your health, of your nutrition, your physical health, start exercising, start meditating. This is a good goal too, your own well-being. After you have taken care of yourself, it comes down to your family. If you are maybe well off financially, your health is good, you can start taking care of your family, maybe your parents, your brothers, your sisters. If this is taken care of, you can look further at your community and maybe take up some volunteering projects. And again, this is not really talked about that much in Transurfing, but I have met a lot of people who didn't know what to do, but they found an organization, they started volunteering, and this became a goal. And maybe even in the future, they actually got hired by the organization, and helping other people and doing something for the community brought some happiness to them. And this could be a good place to look at. But it always begins with you. Take care of yourself first. Make sure that you are well physically, financially, that your mind is at the right place. Take care of that. This can be a goal in itself.
Right. So you mentioned health, and I wanted one book a lot of people may not have had a chance to read. I think it's the Transmogenic, or it's the one where he's talking about eating raw food. And of course, after as I always do, after I read this, I go out to the grocery store and I buy a bunch of raw food. It's hard, but I mean, have you tried to integrate any of this into your diet? And what is your impression? I don't necessarily think it's a Transurfing thing. It's a Vadim Zeland thing that he has tried that has worked. And have you been able to integrate that into your health routine? Yeah,
there was a period where I did eat raw vegan food.
Right.
For a certain time, not too long, not too long. I don't think
it's kind of hard, isn't it?
I don't think it is necessary. Again, Transurfing is a good thing, but I don't really subscribe to kind of ideologies and to everything that Vadim Zeland says. And just if you look at the science, raw vegan diet is not the best diet. There are certain nutrients that we can't observe from raw food. For instance, with carrots, I'm not sure what it is exactly, but they are better off cooked, if I remember correctly at least. Okay. So it's not that necessary. And right now my diet is kind of vegan, but I do include some meat as well at times, so I don't really think we have to be purists, and avoid certain things. Of course, it's good to have a balanced diet, but sometimes when your diet is too pure and you wash your hands all the time and you wash everything 1,000 times, your immune system actually gets weaker.
Right.
Because it can't tolerate the viruses, it can't tolerate the environment anymore. So it's actually worse. So we do need to have this kind of balance. And I did go through that phase,
Right.
but right now, no, I drink black coffee, I eat a lot of vegetables.
Right.
And this is a good place to start. And I think we do need to reduce, the sugar and the processed foods, but going raw vegan is not necessary.
Right. So yeah, let's talk about that. You had a good point. A lot of times when we have something like this, we might put Vadim Zeland on a pedestal, and he's another writer that's writing about this stuff, and sometimes everybody reads it, almost becomes a pendulum or almost a religion in itself, and that's a mistake. And I don't think he wants us to do that. What is your opinion on? You can see it in the Facebook groups, and that it's becoming more than just the books itself. It's like its own pendulum, and of course, not all pendulums are bad. But I wanted to get your impression on that, because I don't think that Vadim Zeland wants us to do that. He wants us to take this information and apply it to ourselves. Nobody knows everything, and everything is different, right? But I wanted to get your impression of that.
Yeah, I think it is a good idea to read the books and to look for information, but ultimately, truth is a pathless path. I think this was Krishnamurti who said that. And it always comes back to you, to your own understanding of reality, to your own understanding of the truth. And this is why, again, I sound like a broken record, but I do encourage people to meditate that much, because when you do it long enough, you will have those insights into your own mind, into the nature of reality. You will understand it better. You will not understand it intellectually. You will understand it more on a being level. You will just know that this is the way it is. And again, with nutrition, I have met people who had serious health problems, and they healed themselves on a vegan diet. And there were other people who healed themselves on a paleo diet. So I mean, it's so different. I don't think that there is something that will work for everyone. You have to find it for yourself.
Right.
And again, I think writing can be very helpful to understand yourself better. So I do write every day. Journaling can work very, very well for people.
Very much so. It's something I'm a big fan of. So, is there any other, because you've had the wonderful chance to read some of these other books that we haven't read, is there one that you're excited that for us to read, or is crazy or has different information? Because I haven't got to read all these. Is there one that you particularly like that we really probably haven't had access to yet? Because you did say that they're all kind of the same, right? Even the newer ones?
I'm not sure what books are translated and what books are not translated.
I think right now it's just Tufti and Reality Transurfing. Those are the only two that are translated into English.
Really?
I've got some badly translated copies. Essentially what somebody did is grabbed a copy of it in Russian and ran it through Google Translate. So when you read it, it's bad. But some Projector Separate Reality, I kind of read through that. But I'm aware that at the end of Tufti, he's mentioning like 6 books. Oh yeah, by the way, you should check these out. And I'm just desperately going, oh my gosh. Well, one thing I do love about him, he's a great writer, and so that's why I was asking if there was something that we may not know from one of those other books. I saw that he mentions the 5 Tibetans as a workout routine, little bits of information that I found, but I just wanted to know if there's any that you had read that maybe we haven't heard about yet that will be helpful in the future.
Yeah, actually, it's surprising to me. I thought that a lot more were translated.
Yeah.
But it's they're not. Well, there are certain books, I actually don't know how they would be translated, the name of them, but there are certain books where he talks about this whole system, with the social media, with the entertainment industry, kind of the Matrix, I guess you could say.
Right.
Those are the good books, but again, I'm not sure how they are called. They're still in the Reality Transurfing series, and those are the good kind of books to just put it all into perspective. But to be honest with you, I think the very first books are the most powerful ones, and I prefer the first Reality Transurfing even more than Tufti.
Okay.
Yeah.
So let's talk about a little bit about Tufti. I had not heard of the plait. I'd heard of similar things in yoga but the plait, I don't know if the proper pronunciation, who knows? It isn't, and it's the weirdest thing. I don't know if it's hypnotic. Once I started to put this into my meditation, I started feeling the plait. And our brain is amazing, the kind of things they can do. But the implications of this, we have a phantom limb. Are at some time in the past, do you think our souls were plugged in? I mean, Vadim is talking about the matrix is the truth. And so we can talk about the plait, but I want to back up a little bit and say, what does this mean that we had a phantom limb? Was at one point, were we plugged in? I mean, who knows? I don't think that we know the exact response, but I wanted to get your impressions of this crazy truth. Of what do you think about the plait and what it means?
Yeah, this is a good question too. Recently, I was talking to someone, and they asked me, why is it called the plait? And I don't know why it's called the plait in English. In the Russian version, it would be translated as the braid. Braid that women have in their hair.
When I first heard that, I looked it up and I saw a picture of a braid. Okay,
yeah.
So it's the Russian version is a braid, is what you're saying.
It's kind of the braid. I mean, yeah, that's how it would be translated. So I'm not sure why they called it the plait, and I'm not sure what it means, to be honest. Phantom limb plugged in somewhere, I don't know. And this is where I kind of don't agree entirely. With Zeland, with the way that Transurfing has went, it's getting too, I don't know, like too complicated.
Too complicated.
Do we really have to do this thing, with the plait or with the braid, to create our reality, to be aware? I don't think that's necessary. This is why I said the first books are the ones that impressed me more. The Stafti, it's kind of almost similar to reality transurfing if you look at it this way. It's just explained in a more complicated way, in a way,
Right. So in the first book, he's talking to the dreamer. In the second one's Tufti. So essentially, he's saying he's channeled. I mean, he even says that he's channeling. And I wanted to get your impressions outside of transurfing. What you think about channeling? What is your? I mean, obviously, some people that we see are clearly faking it when you watch people channel, and then some people they feel authentic and genuine, and I'm fascinated by it in general. I think, who knows, maybe through history some of the books we read were actually written by some multidimensional figure of some kind. So when we look at these, it's amazing that these are channeled books. And what do you think about that? About channeling?
Yeah, I think the first books, at least in Russian, were written from his perspective.
From his perspective,
he was the author. He is writing them. Possibly they were channeled, but I'm not sure. But the Tafti one is actually written from a woman's perspective. It's this Tafti, the priestess, who's writing that. It's her, it's she. So this is very interesting. And I don't know about the audiobook in English, how it is made, but in Russian, the audiobook is narrated by a woman, not by a man.
Right.
But when it comes to channeling, it is quite interesting. I think at some points when you're in this creative process, you lose yourself a little bit and something comes through that you didn't even know was there. So this is what channeling is for me. Sometimes I feel this way when I am writing something, or when I was making YouTube videos, I felt that way as well sometimes. So this is the creative process. Mm-hmm. I don't really watch a lot of channelers, to be honest with you, so I don't know. I do understand what you mean when you say that some of them are obviously fake. It's just seeing. You can see when someone is really being creative and honest, mm-hmm. and when someone is acting. Usually you can notice.
Right.
So I think when he was writing, something did come through, something that he didn't know was there. Because he mentioned that he wasn't a writer before. He was a physicist. I think he studied physics, and then he was in IT. He was doing something with IT, and at a certain point he mentioned that his health deteriorated and that's when something just came through, and this was decades ago.
If we had Zeland on this call right now, and you had a question, what question would you ask him that you would want to know about?
I would ask him, I think, about his creative process.
Yeah.
How he starts, maybe his morning, his day, how he does that, how long does he work, what does he do after he works, things like that.
Yeah, me too. I'm very interested to see he's written a lot, and some of his stuff is completely fascinating. As I mentioned with Sonny, a lot of this material, the reason it was so profound and it's so popular, it feels like we already knew this, which is different than a lot of, we're reading it, and as you said at the beginning, this is familiar. And this stuff, and he's translated it in maybe using different wording, but this is deep knowledge we already knew. We already know it from our lives and stuff, but it was just and that's why it's so interesting. It's wonderful to get a chance to talk to you about this stuff. There's so much more to it. I'm probably, as soon as this phone call is done, I'm going to remember a question or two. But I think I speak for everybody. Keep the videos coming. I'm learning. You're on my notification bell. Anybody watching this, please subscribe to her channel. She may not have videos in the last couple of weeks, but I'm sure she'll have some in the future. And it's honest, it's sincere. You cut through the chaff on your videos, and I've learned a lot. You've clearly read all this information, and so I just want to thank you for coming on the show. One more question I always ask, and it's similar to it's unrelated, but because I'm a big movie buff. Is there a movie that I probably haven't seen that you would recommend? That something out there that maybe I haven't seen?
Yeah. Well, movies. I was talking to my friend yesterday about movies, and for some reason I remembered this movie called Enter the Void. I don't know if you have heard about it or not. It's by Gaspar Noé, and it's a very strange movie. It describes a spirit watching over, his sister after he dies. And there's not much dialogue, and there's not much, going on. There's not many conversation, but it's very visual, and it's very interesting. And that's a movie that I like. Another movie that I love a lot, maybe you have seen it, maybe you haven't, it's Pink Floyd, The Wall, which is also a strange movie. You have seen it?
Of course, it's classic. Yeah. Of course, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know why I like it, but I have watched it like more than 10 times. It's always inspiring to me. Always. Yeah. So my movie preference, I don't watch a lot of movies. Right. But the movies that I do watch, they're kind of a bit strange, so...
I realize for this is a strange question, but I really appreciate you answering that. And I think that you've given me a movie that I haven't heard, which is very rare. Enter the Void. So I have that on my list. I appreciate that. Thank you so much, guys. Subscribe to her channel. It'll be in the links for this episode. And look at her videos if you can learn some interesting knowledge. Thank you so much for joining me. I learned a lot. And let's talk again in the future, okay?
Yeah, thank you for inviting me. It was very fun.
Yeah, thank you. Have a good one.